Imagine being sentenced to life in prison for a crime you swear you never committed. You lose your freedom, your future, and almost everyone you love. Then, after spending decades behind the same walls, you discover that the only person who can save you is yourself. This is the story of Andy Dufresne, a quiet man whose incredible determination turns one of the world's most brutal prisons into the place where he plans his greatest escape. The story begins with Andy Dufresne, a successful banker whose life suddenly collapses after his wife is murdered. Andy is accused of killing both his wife and the man she was involved with. Although Andy insists that he is innocent, the evidence against him is overwhelming. He receives 2 life sentences and is sent to Shawshank State Penitentiary. Inside the prison, Andy quickly realizes that survival requires more than strength. He needs patience, intelligence, and the ability to remain hopeful in a place designed to destroy people's spirits. There, he meets Ellis "Red" Redding, a prisoner famous for being able to obtain almost anything from the outside world. The two slowly become close friends. Andy struggles during his first years at Shawshank. He is targeted by violent prisoners and suffers abuse, but instead of allowing prison to completely break him, he finds ways to make himself useful. Because of his banking knowledge, Andy eventually becomes valuable to the prison's officials. He begins helping guards with their financial problems and later assists the corrupt warden with complicated financial arrangements. In return, Andy gains certain privileges and access to books and educational materials. He eventually transforms a neglected prison library into a place where inmates can read, learn, and escape mentally from their surroundings. But Andy has another dream. He wants freedom. While everyone around him slowly accepts prison life as permanent, Andy refuses to believe that his future has to end behind those walls. His friendship with Red becomes one of the most important things keeping him alive emotionally. Years pass. The prison's corrupt warden increasingly depends on Andy to hide financial wrongdoing. Andy secretly creates a new identity and manages money for the warden, unknowingly becoming part of a system built on corruption. Then a young prisoner arrives with information that could completely change Andy's situation. The prisoner has heard about a man whose story resembles Andy's case and may know something that could prove Andy was innocent. For the first time, Andy believes there might be a legitimate path out of prison. But the warden refuses to let that happen. Andy knows too much about the warden's illegal activities. Instead of helping Andy, the warden destroys the evidence and makes sure the young prisoner cannot expose the truth. Andy realizes that waiting for justice may never be enough, so he decides to create his own way out. For years, Andy has been secretly working on a plan. Using a small tool and enormous patience, he has been gradually creating a hidden passage through the prison wall. Nobody realizes what he is doing. One night, during a powerful storm, Andy finally puts his plan into action. He crawls through the narrow passage and escapes from Shawshank. But his escape is only the beginning. Andy uses the identity he created through the warden's financial schemes to withdraw money and expose evidence of the prison's corruption. The authorities eventually discover what has happened, and the warden's criminal activities begin to collapse. For the first time in decades, Andy is truly free. Meanwhile, Red eventually receives parole. But freedom is surprisingly difficult for him. After spending most of his life inside prison, the outside world feels unfamiliar and frightening. Then he remembers a promise Andy made to him. Andy had told him about a special place where they could meet if Red ever got out. Following Andy's clues, Red travels across the country, and eventually he finds Andy waiting for him. Two men who once believed prison would be their entire world finally stand together as free men. Andy's story proves that hope can survive even in the darkest circumstances. Sometimes freedom begins long before the prison doors open. It begins the moment you refuse to give up.